I get the opportunity to travel a lot these days. And let me tell you, the combination of heavy ventilation, insane pollen levels, equals 10 cigars and a bottle of whiskey. So I sent an email to Scarlett Johansson asking if she could be my voice stand-in. She politely rejected. So you will just have to bear with my slightly husky voice today. When ChatGPT was launched in November a year and a half ago, suddenly, within a few days, weeks, about 100 million users around the world had AI here. But you see, since the birth of Homo sapiens, whenever there's something we do not understand, we tend to dedicate it to some kind of divine force. Earlier days, we sacrificed children, goats, food. We stopped doing that, but we still dedicate what we don't understand to some kind of divine force. And we talk about singularity and artificial general intelligence, and we're afraid that these things are going to come and take over the world and our livelihood and make us humans, well, superfluous, really. What we really do need to talk about is that we are using mathematics, statistics, on large amounts of data, also when it comes to text. So a way to look at these large language models is that they are semantic, probabilistic information models. But most people do not understand this. Because to us humans, languages are so personal. They're so related to who we are as individuals, our history, where we come from, what we believe in, our experiences. So when somebody comes with a language model that is able to replicate text and create text better than us, we don't understand that this is about statistics to enormous amounts of data. Languages are societal constructions. They are constructions for us as humans to be able to communicate. And we think that all languages must be similar, but they are not. Their constructions are slightly different. And you all agree that if you ask ChatGPT to describe a wolf, there is no drooling beast hanging over your shoulders. Right? You agree? Yes, okay. But still, when we ask ChatGPT about love, and it responds about love, we think it has feelings. And this is one of the challenges we now have in our society. This is one of the reasons why there's such a hype around AI, and generative AI in particular, because humans don't manage to separate language and the abstract description of something from the actual thing. And this is why we also think that these things are truth machines, but they are definitely not. Right? They are just a natural next step of big data, digital transformation, and now we can apply mathematics and statistics to those data and those digital processes. We call it artificial intelligence and we confuse ourselves, but it is really the natural next step. But we also do need to remember that even if generative AI is what gets the most attention in the market right now, the AI toolbox is much more than that. And I know that many of you work in finance, insurance, like flight companies. There's a lot of information. And all that information can be used for purposes beyond just the language part. But let's return to ChatGPT. So it was, in fact, a paradigm shift when GPT-3, the model before the chat part, was launched, really. But it was also, I would call ChatGPT a strategic diversion as well. I meet a lot of leaders across industries, across Europe, and many of them are still thinking that the strategic discussion is how to integrate ChatGPT into their companies. I know you know this. But one of the huge communication challenges we have towards C-level and boards is that it's not about ChatGPT in your businesses. It's about how you can use those large language models as foundations to build your internal context-specific applications. I know all of you know that. That's why you are here. But this is one of the communication challenges that we need to solve. And obviously, bias is a huge challenge in this landscape. We hear about it frequently, almost every day on social media and in media in general. We could spend a day just talking about bias and discrimination. I just want to point out one thing. This audience represents very many nations, different cultures. We need to remember collectively that when we give data to the algorithms to train on, those data represent the society and our businesses as they were. Those data are created by us humans through our decisions, our behaviors, through perhaps decades. And then we take that representation of our society and our businesses as they were, and we feed it to the algorithms. And then we expect the algorithms to give answers for the world as we want it. This is what I call human stupidity. We need to understand that when we feed those data to those algorithms, we as humans are standing in front of a huge mirror, and what we see is a representation of ourselves. So if we want those algorithms to do better, we need to do better. And in this landscape of using generative AI, in particular in customer service and customer experience, the question of consent is going to be extremely important moving forward. It will be about trust. Do your customers trust you? Do you have their consent, their explicit consent, to use that information? And of course, we are going to see a lot of cybersecurity issues. What is the biggest challenge in cybersecurity? The weakest link, do you know? You, right? And when I speak with leaders, they typically, when I start talking about cybersecurity, I see going through their brain a sentence saying, oh, but I rely on my cybersecurity department or my chief security officer. That is the biggest mistake, because it's going to be us, the humans, and those leaders that are going to open the gates for those cyber attacks, whether it's about polluting data or it's just simply open the gates to the core systems. We need to help each other and our leaders to understand that they are extremely important in preventing the cyber attacks, and in particular because of generative AI, because we can now recreate voice, text, images, video, whatsoever. Anything can be faked. Okay, but let's return to customer experience. There's a company called Customer C, and Forstad is another company. Together they did a survey on Norwegian companies on customer centricity. And you see these 6 factors. These 6 factors were the most important factors in achieving customer centricity. How many of these have anything to do with technology? None. And that's the point. We tend to think, because we live in this tech bubble, that digital technologies will solve the customer experience challenges. But it's not about that. There are so many other factors in our organizations that need to be in place in this equation for the entire customer experience journey to be good and optimal. You can go to Customer C in their website and request the report in full. I think they will also be able to provide it in English for those of you who might be interested. So as you understand, Organizational maturity is extremely important in achieving the optimal customer experience. But if you go back to the technology part, as was also mentioned in the introduction, the technology is already here. I had a chat with a representative from Microsoft last week, and we discussed customer experience and customer service technologies, and it's all there. The big question is really, how mature is the organization in adopting these technologies? And then you can all think about the organizations you represent. Your organizations are probably quite forward-leaning compared to a lot of other companies out there. And it's about the bigger picture, because if we solve one part, that's just one piece of the puzzle. We need to see the entire picture of customer experience, not just the call center. But then there's one point that I think is extremely important, and that is leaders' understanding of risk when applying these, let's call it the entire AI toolbox, because it's not just about the large language models. I'll give you one example. So the National Eating Disorder Association, this is American, they had a helpline. This helpline was used in 2022 by about 70,000 people with eating disorders. At some point, about a year ago, they decided to replace all their human call center employees with a bot. And the CEO stated that the most important reason why they did that was because of the increasing crisis level of incoming calls. And they were really worried about the legal liabilities of those calls. So they wanted to take the humans on their side out of the loop and replace the humans by a bot to reduce the risk. But what happened? They were challenged, of course, so a journalist went onto their website and started chatting with this bot and pretended to be a person with a heavy, severe eating disorder. And the bot started replying about calorie restriction and weight control. I read through those answers. For a person without challenges around food and eating, those answers were fine, no problem. But when you have a person with heavy eating disorder challenges, you might have a suicidal person on the other side, or at least somebody who could fall into a very, very dark and deep ditch with answers that would be normal to the rest of us. This risk was beyond what they managed to, well, at least foresee. And then there's agent-to-agent interaction. Now, you all think about agent-to-customer interaction. The next level is agent-to-agent interaction, the interaction between machines. Heather Wolf-Hurd, the founder of Tinder and Bumble, a co-founder of Tinder, she recently said in the Bloomberg Technology Week that in the very near future, these dating apps will have AI concierges representing us, and those concierges will be figuring out whether they will be a good fit. So you don't have to do the dating until their concierges are done with their filtering. At first, I thought, oh goodness, this is beyond acceptable from a societal perspective. Then I had a second thought. There's another way of looking at this, and that is that this is just an advanced filtering level. It's just an advanced filtering level. We need to stop thinking about these things as some kind of superhuman human. It's not. Okay, so if we go one step further, what is better than awesome customer service? No customer service, not having to contact them in the first place. I want to bring you back to the entire AI toolbox. Remember that there's so much more than just these language models in this AI toolbox. What if you can use the information you're able to gather from all different sources to solve the problem before the customer even contacts you? I used to work for a small technology company called Tieto Every. Right? Not so small, perhaps. they have, like before the merger between Tieto and Every, they had 1 million tickets in Every, the IT support every year, 1 million tickets, right? I bet you, those are not 1 million different tickets, right? A lot of the questions are the same. What if you could detect some of these challenges before they ever occurred? And then use AI to solve those problems before the customer realizes it is a problem. They won't ever call you. They will only call you when it really matters. And that's my final point. This is my former dog, Silva. She died a few weeks ago. For those of you who are dog lovers, you will understand this story. For the rest of you, this is a training session in empathy. So when she got really, really ill, she got lymphatic cancer, we had to spend a lot of time with vets and a couple of different animal hospitals. And this became rather expensive, at least for my insurance company. The entire process with the insurance company was really, really smooth, because it was just an interaction between the vets and the hospitals and the insurance company. I didn't really see much of the interaction at all. It was all frictionless. But what I really, really remember is the very human conversation I had with a vet when we realized how ill she really was. My point is, in this frenzy to automate as much as possible, you should focus on automating away the friction, but never forget the human touch where it really, really matters. So to summarize, AI is the natural next step. Automate the process, but humanize the touch. Never forget the most important touch points. And then finally, the holy grail of customer service is not hyperpersonalisation or amazing AI solutions. It's trust. Trust is going to be the decisive factor. Using technology is a part of the game, but mostly is a part of the game in the automation part. So, with that, final word, trust. I say thank you.
Stay on stage. I have 2 questions for you. Thank you so much, Elin. Thank you so much. I have 2 questions. One is automate the process, humanize the touch. And one of the biggest questions we get when embarking on this journey with many organizations is, but where do I start? Where do I get to a point where I can kind of see the end result that I want to achieve, but what do I need to be doing or thinking as an organization to get going?
Well, I'd say keep your eyes on the business strategy and then find out which problems do you need to solve to be able to achieve your strategy and your ambitions. And then look into the toolbox and see what kind of tools do I have that can help me solve these challenges. Yep.
Simple as that. Thank you. And my next point is actually a more personal point. K1 fighting, what is it?
So it's a combination or a fusion between karate, kung fu, and kickboxing. And it's a little bit like Thai boxing, slightly different rules, but it's a full contact sport.
Okay. But you haven't come here with a black eye?
Not today, I was lucky.
Okay. Thank you. Hands together for Elin. Thank you. Thank you so much, Elin.